Hi everyone, good day. As what you have probably seen on the previous clip, you might now have an idea as to what we'll be talking about. And this topic is surely an interest to all of us as we are known to be in the 21st century now and the word netizen is very common to many of us. If you remember back in the days when our lolos and our lolas used to read on newspapers, like they cannot last a day without a newspaper man coming into our house and them immediately reading what's on news. That's what we commonly see back on the days years ago. However, in our time now, the common scenario looks like this, right? I know that I'm not the only one who does this as well. Upon waking up in the morning, we immediately grab our phones and we check our messages, we check the news, it may be international or national, which is somewhat the same with what our lolas and lolas have done in their time as well. But the difference now is that we have our gadget, we have our social media and an internet to help us be updated on the news instead of using paper or on newspaper. To continue, I will be talking to you all about, if you remember, the last statement on the conversation with Amani and Kenneth that as long as I see you on Facebook, I know you're safe. This is a very timely topic, knowing that we open our Facebook every day and that we use this in various purposes, not just to be informed, but also to know something, to be educated, and to read information. So, this is very helpful to all of us. We, through social media or through social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and many other things, we use these things to help us be informed on, for an instance, on the COVID-19 status or on the wars in other countries or through breaking news on national TV. This is very common as we scroll down on our Facebook account, and that has been very abundant ever since we started or we were introduced with what Facebook is all about. The problems of our globalized world are increasingly interconnected, but our experiences and understandings of others can be outstandingly disconnected. Meaning, despite of us, we feel like we are very connected with each other because even if we are in the Philippines, we know what's happening out there in Africa. We know what's happening out there on the on Afghanistan, things like that. Even if we weren't able to be physically out there, but we know what's happening on them with the use of this social media through news. However, the problem is, even if we feel like we are very connected with them, our understanding and our judgment of the real scenarios may not be truly what it is, because as media plays an important part, also there are things that is in need of much understanding. So despite of being interconnected, we can still be disconnected among each other. The invention of printing press was the starting point for the information age. 'Di ba? Printing press was invented by Johann Gutenberg in 1440. From that moment, it was the first start of printing press, like the manual printing of manuscript. They do it hand in hand. That was the first genesis where information age started. It was when Johannes Gutenberg were tasked to disseminate information to many people to surrounding areas. So When it started to newspapers, it then became and transformed into books, into radios, into televisions, into computers, and to today as what we are very aware of, which is through social media. So from the 1440 printing press of Johannes Gutenberg, we have now come to a new generation where we doesn't really use so much of that paper and pencil to inform ourselves, but through social media platforms instead. Information can become increasingly available but decontextualized. And this has led to, well, if you have noticed that in Facebook, you can see a lot of things. Like if ever you feel something, you can post it right away. If you have some issues, if you have some comments on political aspects, there's no stopping of you commenting on your opinion. And then if you want to say something to the world, you want to say something to your friend, social media offers a feature that allows your voices to be heard. However, with this information being increasingly available, or, diba, when we say information, information could also be chika. Diba? Chika is increasingly available na. And we, even if we haven't really seen Jamil in person, but we are aware of their issue because social media taught us to maximize these features. Diba? With this information being increasingly available, our content has also been decontextualized. So what do we mean by decontextualized? Decontextualized often means to information that are incomplete, inaccurate, misleading. So this decontextualized information with the abundance of information everywhere, with the abundance of data we can read either from libraries or from our social media apps, it has also, lessened the impact, the value, or the truthfulness of the information we are reading. And this has led to standardization of books, meaning when they started to put page numbers on books, when they started to require a certain margin, a certain font, or grammar checks before finally publishing your book. So with the help of standardization of books, it has, limited the information available to everybody because there's a certain requirement that an author has to reach before his work to be finally published. Second is separation of knowledge and disciplines. So if you remember in our previous course that back then social studies isn't a considered area of knowledge, right? It was like history, geology, anthropology. These things they treat this as one when in fact they are all different aspects. And with separation of knowledge and disciplines, things are being grouped from the least to greatest to most important to not so important and to things that is really intact. The topics are together and they are different from each other. So with separation of knowledge, we can easily find or look for what we are searching. Like if you wanna look upon more on geography, you can look on geography books. Back then, geography, anthropology, psychology are all together combined when these aspects are quite different as well. And third is creation of school curricula. Back then, there's no certain requirement for the children to be taught of. Like if you want to know something, you can know about it. But in today's DepEd and SHED, there's a certain list of topics or syllabus wherein that students has to learn those topics within the time that's given to them. So those school curricula has also allowed students to know enough information at that given point of time. With these three, standardization of books, separation of knowledge and disciplines, creation of school curricula, even if information is very available to everybody, these three has helped them, filter the informations that are valuable, truthful, not misleading, and not inaccurate. Next, with the rise of social media, over the last decade, the rise of social media has only added to more decontextualized information. Just like with what I've said earlier, that the rise of social media has given us a platform to talk in things we want to say to ourselves, to people, where you can see people posting anything on social media, which for us, we think of it as nonsense at all or doesn't have any importance at all. But social media doesn't limit people to not posting them, which is why it is our role as social studies educators to teach them of internet ethics. There's what we call internet ethics, where not everything you want to say can be posted online. So we will be talking about that further. And then there's the Web 2.0 or participatory social web. Web 2.0 is the user-generated content or social media, meaning everything that happens there, it is controlled by the user itself. So what is Web 2.0? A key element of Web 2.0 is it allows users to create, share, collaborate, and communicate with each other, di ba? Web 2.0 has been helpful, especially in the situation we are in where we rely our education on internet. And with that, you know, Web 2.0 offers features that has allowed us to, for instance, create meme, share those memes, collaborate with the new Facebook feature, the mentorship, wherein we collaborate with other people and we communicate with each other. Examples of Web 2.0 are YouTube, Google Maps, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media such as Instagram, Snapchat. Those are also considered as part of Web 2.0. There's this also SNS, if you are aware of, and I'm sure you're aware of, or social networking sites. So according to Clinton, Jenkins, and McWilliams of 2013, page 8, it says there that social media platforms have lowered the costs of production and circulation, decreasing the investment of skills and money required to meaningfully shape our culture, and thus have paved the way for more voices to be heard. It as you can read from the statement, it is very evident that SNS has been helpful in, even if you want to post something, if you want to comment on political issues, there's no need for you to pay anything for your voice to be heard. You can share your thoughts without having to pay something expensive, unlike before, and this has allowed more voices to be heard. However, we shouldn't forget that as information, as opportunities have been abundant, also this can be contributors to informations that are decontextualized. Next, social studies educators are the professed leaders of democratic citizenship education. When we hear the phrase democratic citizenship education, it may seem to us like it's a very, heavy responsibility. However, it means that democratic citizenship education aims to equip our learners with knowledge, skills, and understanding that would mold their attitudes and responsibilities. So, this type of education would help our learners become active and responsible citizens. Also, it helps the democratic citizenship education empower them to exercise and defend their democratic rights and responsibilities. The awareness and abilities to critically question and create new media and technology, and the digital democratic experiences necessary to become active participants in the shaping of democracy. As what I have told you earlier, that us social educators carry the responsibility in us to teach our students, our future students, our future children to become citizens, the type of citizens that actively performs, actively contributes, and actively maximizes their rights and responsibilities not only in the real world but also in the virtual world. In the new media, our students are active producers and not simply passive consumers. Our students are not only mere reading information, not merely reading news, but also they are the one who create this information. Also with the help of us and with the help of those criteria I have presented earlier. Use of social media in social studies. Twitter, there's a situation where a teacher used Twitter as his platform in teaching. What he did is that he gave a task to his students to use the for example, I will contextualize this so we can understand. For example, I am the teacher. I will tell you to use the hashtag community pantry 2021. Say your thoughts, tell your opinions, comment on each other's post, retweet, put upload a fleet, and by this using that hashtag community pantry 2021, you are encouraging your student to be active in social media, not only on things that aren't important but things that are, you know, that are on the news and things that are worthy to be talked about as an issue in our society. Now, the question or the challenge is, how can we educate students to use social media to cultivate democratic, dialogical, and humanizing mediated experiences? The challenge for us is, how do we teach our students to become active participants in society, active netizens in the virtual world who uses their power as a user to be contributors of knowledge, contributors of information, which are important with sense, accurate, and not misleading at all. How do we teach them this? First is that we have to let them understand on what global citizenship is. Global citizenship being, you have a responsibility, a rights in you that you have to use, and you're not only merely living in this world as what you are, but you also have power to exercise. Next is student engagement. You have to let them be the creators of knowledge. You shouldn't be uh, sage on the stage, but you should only be a instructor on the side. And also cultural awareness, because you should be sensitive to the cultures of others. You should show respect, because respect should be universal and shouldn't be based on your status. Now, we have here frameworks for democratic media literacy. First is deliberative citizenship, or when you say deliberative, it is quality issue centered type of education. First is transmedia judgment. It is the ability to evaluate the reliability and credibility of different information carried through various forms of media text. Meaning, when you are a deliberative citizen in a transmedia judgment, you know how to critique information which is worthy to be believed of. You do not common happenings is that when we scroll down through our Facebook, we only read the heading of the news, the title of the news, without really opening or without really reading the whole article that is attached on it. So if you are a deliberative citizenship, you know what news is reliable and credible. Next is online discussion, the ability to communicate one's views online with people from diverse backgrounds. Meaning that you have the courage, you know how to communicate with people, even if you feel like you're different from each other, even if they are from Tagalog or they are not Cebuano speakers and you have different backgrounds, you know where to place yourself, you know what to say and when to say it. Third is new media expression, the ability to make defensible decisions on social issues. Like, you know how to defend yourself if you are included in social issues. You know how to defend yourself if you have decision that you make. Second is pluralistic citizenship or diverse perspective. Virtual communities navigation. It is the openness to visit diverse virtual communities and networks that represent various perspectives, meaning that especially now that we are relying in our virtual communities, you know, you are not, even if you are just in the corners of your room, but you were able also to connect to other places. You were able to connect through some community programs or barangay programs, and you have been useful despite of the situation we are in. Virtual communities exists especially now, and as a student, as an educators soon, it is also part and parcel of our job to teach our students to be active in virtual communities and be in a perspective where they are helpful to others as well. Next is mediated identity reflection, the ability to examine one's own social and cultural positioning and assumptions in various new media environments. Meaning you are not quick to judge somebody. You know how to reflect that, if for instance, if you will be put in their shoes, you are sensitive of what they would feel if you would say about that. You are not quick to judge that person or their personality. And lastly is participatory citizenship or community engagement. There is social group networking, the capacity to maintain membership in social groups and networks via new media environment and tools. With the use of various Facebook groups, hashtags of communities, you are also contributing to your community. You're a member of that social groups. You know, you're not alone when you have the same goals with that people. You have the same beliefs. You contribute to what you contribute something to them. And lastly, social action, the ability to use new media and technologies to coordinate and organize civic projects. For an example, as what we did in the Kapisanan ng Agham Panlipunan during the typhoon, we were able to create a donation drive headed by our organization and use it into a meaningful project that has helped our community and our co-Filipinos. So with that, if we go back to the title, as long as I see you on Facebook, I know you're safe, meaning that um Facebook has allowed us to be updated with each other. Like through My Day, we know that our friends is in that place or on the beach or doing homeworks. Like for example, I know you also do this, like when Mimi posts on her My Day laptop or a schoolwork, we then worry, di, unsa day na imong gibuhat, di ba? Things like that. We use Facebook as a way for us to be updated among each other, even in the situation wherein we are distant from each other. So that would be all, and thank you. Bye bye.